Hello and welcome to the second episode of my series where I go over possible ways a giant movie monster might be incorporated into the Monsterverse. But first, let's get this out of the way. Yes, this choice is indeed based on a teaser for Godzilla x Kong Supernova which came out a little while ago, which will likely mean that this video will age the worst out of all of them, but in this case I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. So for those who are more outside the Godzilla or kaiju sphere, so to speak, let me give you a quick rundown of what the deal with this monster exactly is. Luckily, this is going to be pretty short since, much like two other certain Heisei original monsters, SpaceGodzilla so far has only appeared, as of this video, in one movie. But despite that, he sure did leave an impression. So basically, in one of the previous movies, this giant plant monster called Biolante turned into a spore cloud, which was then carried off into space by Mothra, and then those same spores were sucked into a black hole, which then condensed all the cells from Godzilla, and then created SpaceGodzilla. This new crystalline duplicate of the King of the Monsters then flies towards Earth, where he proceeds to kidnap Godzilla Jr., and he is then defeated in an epic team-up with Godzilla himself and a mech called Mogira. So, after having just laid all this out, I think I have a pretty good idea of knowing what and what not to change. First of all, his backstory. And it's not because it's silly or anything. Any G-fan will tell you that silliness is as much a part of him being dark and serious every once in a while. No, rather the main reason for changing his backstory is completely due to its ties to Biolante, which in turn is purely because of how expensive the rights are. Now I don't know the exact number, but considering that they were only willing to pay for Godzilla, Rodan, Mothra, and King Ghidorah and King of the Monsters, I imagine it's quite a bit. Likewise, I sadly don't think it's worth it to fork over the money to use Mogira. Personally, I would much prefer that money be used on getting Jet Jaguar instead. So with all that said, here are the main things I think need to be kept from the original if the Monsterverse ever plans on using SpaceGodzilla. 1. He has to still superficially look like Godzilla. 2. He has to keep the crystals on his body. 3. He has to keep his telekinetic powers. 4. His name still has to make some kind of sense despite having a different backstory. 1 is to have him be a clone made by aliens to fight the real Godzilla and his allies. Have this be the one that introduces the idea of whole alien civilizations, since King of the Monsters has already laid the groundwork for it by making Ghidorah a confirmed alien titan. Basically, this version would be an alien titan from another planet that only resembles Godzilla because of convergent evolution, hinting that perhaps, much like carcinization, it seems that every planet capable of sustaining life out there is destined to spawn a creature like Godzilla at some point. And honestly, considering how powerful Monsterverse Godzilla has become now, this is probably one of the best actual challenging things you could pit him, Kong, and Mothra against now.